Hello and welcome to my channel. In this video we will be looking at AQA A-Level Psychology Specimen 3 Paper 1 Exemplar Answers for Social Influence, which you need to know for AQA A-Level Psychology. I hope you enjoy this video and find it helpful. Let's get started. Please note that these answers have been produced with knowledge of the mark scheme but have not been approved by the mark scheme themselves. There are 3 assessment objectives, AOs, in psychology. In this video they are color-coded. AO1 Knowledge, purple. AO2 Application, blue. AO3 Evaluation, red and green. Question 1. Which 2 of the following are situational variables that can affect obedience? Choose 2 from the option A, B, C, D and E, 2 marks. A. Proximity. B. Flexibility. C. Identification. D. Authoritarian personality. E. Location. A. Proximity and E. Location. Question 2. Using an example, explain the role of social influence processes in social change. 6 marks. Social change occurs when whole societies, not just individuals, change and adopt new attitudes, beliefs, or behaviors through minority influence processes, e.g. when a minority view challenges a majority view and is eventually accepted as the majority. One example is how over time people have changed from using single-use items to reusable items. In the past, not as much was known about the harmful effects that single-use plastics can have on the environment, and therefore the group norm was to use single-use plastics as it was seen as convenient and easy. This meant that young people would be influenced by normative social influence to use single-use plastics or risk social rejection from the group, which eventually led to informational social influence, as people wanted to be right. However, as time went on, a minority of individuals began to understand the harmful effects that single-use plastics was having on the environment and used minority influence processes to enact social change. The minority were successfully able to stay consistent and not deviate from their message that single-use plastics were dangerous to the environment despite social pressures. The minority would have been able to form environmental activist pressure groups to help gain support and form communities with people who had the same beliefs. This would have shown the majority that this viewpoint was something the minority truly believed in and had believed in for a long period of time. The minority would have shown a degree of flexibility and would have been willing to adapt and listen to valid and reasonable counterarguments. Instead, the minority would have compromised by asking people to cut back on single-use plastics, using recycle items instead, or asking people to only use single-use plastic at certain times. This would have made the majority listen and take the message seriously and would have made the minority seem less rigid and dogmatic. Over time, the majority would have started to internalize this message. This would have acted as a snowball effect, slowly and gradually gathering momentum and members until there becomes a tipping point and the minority becomes the majority and uses the social pressure of normative social influence, such as young people today who are more concerned with the environment and frown on peers who cause harm to the environment. This then would have resulted in social crypto-amnesia, where people are aware change occurred but forget the origins of the original viewpoint, mostly likely because the individual had held negative views of the belief which they have now adopted. Instead of identifying with the minority group, individuals will dissociate the minority views from the people who promoted them. People of today have a memory that it was previously socially acceptable to use single-use plastics, however they are unaware of where this view changed, mostly likely because they used single-use plastics at some point in their lives and thought that it was convenient and easy. As time moved on, using reusable items started to become a social norm. More and more people started to conform with this viewpoint to avoid the risk of social rejection and fit in. People started to believe and agree that single-use plastics were dangerous for the environment, with those who chose to use single-use plastics facing the risk of social rejection, as their behavior violated social norms. Eventually, this led to informational social influence, where people finally internalized the beliefs of the minority as a result of wanting to be right. As time moved on, more people know about the harmful and dangerous effects that single-use plastic can have on the environment. People have become convinced by evidence, research, data, and statistics, and therefore their views and opinions changed. Over time, dictators, government lawmakers, through power and authority, have created and changed laws and rules on single-use plastic items, e.g. plastic bags now cost money in shops. This made using reusable items more of a social norm and led to groups of people changing their behavior and beliefs because of the fear of punishment and consequences of not obeying. Steph and Jeff are student teachers who recently joined other members of staff on a one-day strike. When asked why they decided to do so, Steph replied, "I never thought I would strike, but I listened to the other teachers' arguments and now I have become quite passionate about it." Jeff's explanation was different. "To be honest, everyone else seemed to be striking and I didn't want to be the only one who wasn't." Question 3. Discuss explanations of conformity. Refer to Steph and Jeff as part of your discussion. 16 marks. Psychological research has provided 2 explanations to explain why people conform: informational social influence and normative social influence. Informational social influence, ISI, is about information and a desire to be right. It occurs when an individual accepts information from others as evidence about reality because humans have a need to be accepted but also the need to feel confident that their perceptions and beliefs as right. It can occur in situations that are ambiguous, where it isn't clear what is right, where decisions have to be made quickly, where an individual cannot rely on an objective test, comparing against facts, or where one person or a group is regarded as having more expertise. It is associated with internalization, where an individual changes both their public behavior and their private beliefs on a long-term basis. An individual's conformity in public behavior and private beliefs is the result of an individual adopting a new belief system, because they genuinely believe that their new behaviors and beliefs are right. Steph conformed for informational reasons as she has become quite passionate, suggesting the change in attitude is permanent and internalization has taken place. A strength of ISI is that there is research to support the idea that people conform for a desire to be right. Jeunesse, 1932, conducted a laboratory study to investigate whether individuals will change their opinion in ambiguous, unclear situations in response to group discussions. Jeunesse found that nearly all the participants changed their original answer when they were provided with another opportunity to estimate the number of beans in the glass jar. On average, male participants changed their answer by 256 beans and female participants changed their answers by 382 beans. Female participants conformed more. The range of the whole group went from 1875 before discussion to 474 afterwards, decrease of 75%. This is a strength because it suggests that people conform to be right. Normative social influence, NSI, is about norms and a desire to behave like others and fit in with a group. It occurs when an individual goes along with the group majority without them personally accepting their point of view, because humans are social species and are believed to have a fundamental need for social companionship while fearing censure and rejection. It can occur in situations where an individual feels they are being observed or are under surveillance from a group, in unfamiliar situations with people known to an individual as individuals are concerned with the social approval of friends, in stressful situations where an individual has a need for social support, or in situations where the norms are unknown and individuals look to others for a reference of how to behave. It is associated with compliance, where people change their public behavior but not their private beliefs, and identification, where people change their public behavior and their private beliefs when in the presence of the group on a short-term basis. An individual's conformity to the majority position publicly without internalizing the viewpoint or carrying over the same behavior to a private setting is the result of an individual conforming to be accepted and approved by a group because it is socially rewarding, and an individual need and desire to avoid social rejection and disapproval. Jeff confirmed for normative reasons as he didn't want to be the odd one out, suggesting that his change in behavior is temporary. A strength of NSI is that there is research to support the idea that people conform in order to fit in and avoid social rejection. Ask, 1951, conducted a line judgment study to investigate where her people would conform to an obviously wrong answer. He found that on the critical trials, about 36.8% of the participants, over a one-third, conformed to the clearly incorrect majority proportion of critical trials when the participants agreed with the Confederates' wrong answers. This shows a high level of conformity, called the ASK effect, the extent to which people conform even in an unambiguous situation. 75% of participants conformed at least once during the experiment. 25% of participants never conformed. 1% of incorrect answers were genuine mistakes. 0.7% of participants gave incorrect answers in the control group. Most participants said they conformed to avoid rejection, NSI, and continued to privately trust their own opinions, compliance. This is a strength because it suggests that people conform to avoid social rejection and fit in with a group. Despite there being research evidence to support both NSI and IS, it is unclear which one can be used to explain the results of different studies or behavior in real life. For example, ASK, 1955, found that conformity is reduced when there is one dissenting participant. The dissenter may reduce the power of NSI, because they provide social support, or they may reduce the power of ISI, because they provide an alternative source of social information. Both interpretations are possible. Therefore, it is hard to separate ISI and NSI, and both processes probably operate together in most real-world conformity situations, which suggests that the distinction between ISI and NSI might not be useful. Thank you for watching. If you have enjoyed this video, please like and subscribe for more content like this. Bye.